You are self-governed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up? It's Rick Dees in the morning. Right now, Vindog.
Going live from a 35,000-foot view, the Captain America for Jesus himself, Vinndog Radio.
Well, check this out, folks. We are back in studio. Can you believe it? It is awesome. And thank you so much for being back on Monday, Vinny. I know, Vinndog Radio Live on Monday. Oh. So I want to thank everybody for joining us in Phoenix, Arizona this past weekend. It was a beautiful conference. And thank you to all of the wonderful folks at Standing Stones Community Church, Pastor David Bowen and the rest of his crew. They were just terrific to us all weekend long. Brandon Holthouse, Tom Hughes. Wow, it was a great lineup. Dr. David Reagan was there. Yes, indeed, he was there in the flesh and just has the same sense of humor. We had J.B. Hickson in the house, David Tao, and it was just great. It was a wonderful weekend. I had a great time, and I just can't wait to do it again in August in Santa Barbara with James Cadiz, Tom Hughes, and Brandon Holthouse. But today, my friends, we're going to have my good friend John Haller in the house. But before that, please do like, share, subscribe on YouTube. If you are on the infamous Rumble, please hit the follow switch, repost, share with everyone. Put it in the troposphere. If you are on X, formerly known as Twitter, thank you so much. Let us boost the algorithm super, super high today because conversations with John Haller and I are always fun and adventurous. If you are on Getter, Gettr, please do hit the follow switch, repost, share. Thank you to Jason Miller, the entire front office crew at Getter. Thank you so much for blessing us. Every time you guys put us on the front page, you make us the editor's pick of the month at least 3 to 4 times a year, I've noticed. Thank you so much for doing that, and we appreciate you boosting the numbers for us so that we can get the word out and so that people can get to Jesus and Jesus to people. Until then, I say thank you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's bring in my brother in Christ, Mr. John Haller.
Ben, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good, sir. I'm good. So check this out. I'm in Arizona, and I'm getting all this footage from people that Los Angeles is in an uproar.
I got on my Google Maps app, and everything was shut down in downtown LA.
Wow.
I mean, like the 101, the 110 freeways were completely shut down.
That is amazing.
And then,
it was like 1992 all over again, I guess, huh?
Yeah, you know, I remember those. I remember those riots. I remember what happened to the truck driver down there in South LA.
Reginald Denny,
right. You know, I was telling you earlier, I sort of had my own experience there. I was out in California, I was doing some filming, and I violated one of my life principles because somebody else was picking up the airfare. I would usually fly into Ontario because near where my in-laws lived in Upland. But this time I thought, well, I can save the people that are paying agreed to reimburse me for my ticket $300. So I flew against all of my accumulated wisdom to LAX.
Oh.
And, I quickly remembered why I didn't fly to LAX. So I'd flown in from Dallas. That's about a 2-hour flight. I walked off the plane and then got in that ridiculous roundabout thing that they have there at LAX to go get a rental car. It took me longer to get out of the airport. It was about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow.
From the time I walked off the plane till I had my rental car and was exiting the airport was 15 minutes longer than it had taken me to fly from Dallas to Los Angeles. When I returned the car a few days later, I I thought, well, I'll get close to the airport before I refill the tank. And so I got off on South Crenshaw Boulevard, which is, well, because I was close to the airport and there's not too many exits after that. So I got off, I go up to the gas station, and there's people there and everything. And just as I'm starting to put the hose into the gas tank nozzle, all of a sudden, Vinny, it sounded like Armageddon. They're like 40, 50 pieces of emergency equipment, cops, ambulances, hook and ladder trucks. And, there's nothing over 2 stories in that area of LA.
Right.
And they come screaming up to the intersection, and I'm thinking, like, am I the next Reginald Denny? Because it sounded like something really bad was going on, but nothing was happening. And you know how I knew that I was okay? I looked around and nobody had their cell phones, lifted up, taking pictures of what was going on. So I figured it must just be a drill. But I had this vision of, being on YouTube as the next Reginald Denny being pulled out and beaten by the crowd. But it didn't happen. But it was very bizarre. I mean, I've never seen that much emergency equipment in one place at one time.
So you know that a lot of people think, oh man, we're gonna play the blame game. But as far as you and I both know biblically, this is a total spiritual warfare we're having around here.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's spiritual warfare. This is funded by people that want to bring down the United States. It's the usual suspects. I'm sure that this is funded. I'm sure that people need to start unpacking things. This would be a great time for citizen journalists to help out. I mean, I played a clip yesterday in my prophecy update. You could see down the street, a couple blocks down the street, you could see the National Guard lined up in defensive formation. But there in the middle of the street were pallets of bricks. Brand new pallets of, big pallets of bricks right in the middle of the street, a couple blocks from the National Guard. And that these things are planted there on purpose.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's concerning. I think people need to be very situationally aware. I think June, I can't remember the date. I've seen maps all over Twitter or over on X about where these demonstrations are supposed to take place across the country. Some people are reporting it's going to be in 17 cities. But then you look at the map and it's dots all over America, the places where these are going to take place. So I would just say people need to be very situationally aware. I don't think there's any upside to becoming extremely active in, trying to fight it. But, I think the question somebody asked me today was, I know Trump has threatened to arrest Newsom. And I was a lawyer for a lot. I still have my law license. And I'm just telling you, somebody needs to get prosecuted and go to jail. You can't interfere with a federal law enforcement officer. I don't care if you're the governor of California. I don't care if you're the mayor of Los Angeles. I don't care if you're a sitting congressperson. If you're interfering with federal law enforcement actions, you are committing a crime. And people need to be prosecuted immediately.
Absolutely. And Gavin Newsom is nothing but a common thug. That's what he is.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's clear that the people that come out of San Francisco probably have very close ties with the CCP. But it does, I see the news headline you put up there, that it does look like the start of a civil war of some kind. I mean, this is a lot of the things that are happening right now with these tin-pot dictator governors are very similar to what happened back in the 1860s before the Civil War in the United States. And I will tell you, Vinny, I don't know. Look, I'm not a law enforcement guy, you know, but when you're throwing a brick from a freeway bridge at somebody, you're using a deadly weapon, and you need to be met with deadly force to get you to stop.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, how many stories have we heard of people that we had it happen here? Somebody threw a brick off an overpass and killed one or two people in the car driving by underneath. And by the way, this is what the Palestinians do, the Fakistinians, in Israel. When we were there in 2017, we were down in Hebron. And the next day we were in Nablus. Well, while we were in Hebron, about a mile outside of Nablus, which is a major terror center for the Fakistinians, we were headed up there. But a settler had pulled a gun on people throwing rocks at his car. And so when we think of a rock, we think of something you might skip across a pond. These things are like missiles, small missiles. And so 40 Palestinians had surrounded this guy's car. He pulled a gun and shot and killed. I think he killed two of them and injured another one or two, one of whom was a, quote, journalist. You know, we're familiar with, there's, I think, more journalists per capita in Gaza than there are in any other place on the planet. Even in the New York Times newsroom, there aren't that many journalists. And so, I mean, and he was being met with deadly force, and then that caused, so that was a Thursday. So Thursday afternoon, they had riots in Nablus, tires burned, cars burned, all that stuff. We had been in Hebron the day before. So the next day when we get to Nablus, you can see the burned out cars, you can see where they were burning tires and that type of thing. And of course, the riots by then had moved down to Hebron. Down south. So we just kind of missed them. You know, we were like a day behind or a day ahead of the riots where we were going. But, you know, look, I mean, the guy was defending himself. He was being attacked with deadly weapons. And these rocks are not, I saw the rocks. These rocks are like big bricks. That's a deadly weapon. You're entitled to use force in that particular situation. Deadly force. And here in Ohio, I believe Ohio, we're now, you don't have to have a license for concealed carry. And we also are a stand your ground. I believe we're now a stand your ground state.
Oh, okay.
Which means you don't have to retreat.
Good. Have you seen this, John? The 17 most cities you should not visit in the United States right now?
I saw that. I saw somebody had put up a podcast or with that particular list. I would say on most days, that's a pretty good list of places to avoid.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, look, I used to travel a lot. I've spent a couple of years, at least 2.5 or 3 years of my life in terms of days in Boston, a lot in Chicago, New York. Pam and I were just in New Orleans not quite 2 months ago. But we just drove through. She said, you know what? I don't think I really want to get out here. She had never seen it, so we just drove through the French Quarter and kind of caught the ambiance, so to speak. And we're afraid to get out because we wanted to catch the ambiance, but nothing else.
I used to love going to downtown Los Angeles back in the 80s.
I used to go down there a lot too.
Used to love going with my parents. We would go after church on Sunday and just, you know, go eat a late lunch, early dinner, and enjoy family time. But it's so crazy how things have changed so rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, Pam and I just took a long trip across the country, about 8,300 miles, and we avoided places. Like we went right by Portland and Seattle.
Yes.
And we've made 2 trips by there recently, and I said, "Do you want to get off?" And Pam's like, "Don't get off the highway. Keep going."
That's
And
what I told my wife, John. I said, whatever we do when it comes to Portland and Seattle, let's blow past there. I'll pay for the ticket.
so it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I took what I'm pretty sure. Like I said, I would never go to LAX again, and I did. But I'm pretty sure I will never go to San Francisco again.
Yeah, San Francisco is a horrible place now.
So I did. I dropped Pam off in the LA area, and then I caught a flight up to Oakland. Took BART across the bay. And I remember I got off right there at Market Street, right in the middle of the commercial district in San Francisco. So this would have been about 2019, I think. Maybe 20. No, it was 2019. It was before the Charlie Vector 019er situation.
Yeah.
And between the turnstile where you exited the BART subway and the escalator up to the street were probably 25 or 30 homeless people sleeping. And before I had left, I had booked a hotel near the convention center, but I started reading reviews, and the people said that there was so much human fecal matter on the street outside the hotel that they were afraid to take their shoes off and walk on the carpet in the hotel. So I thought that was probably a good indicator to move to a different hotel that was a little outside. And then I started Googling it. They had a poop map on the street. They had a poop and needle map that somebody had made up where you could, where was the biggest concentration of human poop and needles. So you could avoid those areas.
Wow, that's utterly insane.
I know that was 6 years ago. And so like I said, I'm pretty sure when we went up to Oregon and Washington on our trip, we sort of just took went across the bay over by Oakland and never came across by San Francisco. And I don't think I'll ever go there again. And I love San Francisco. Pam and I have spent a lot of time there. I will tell you a quick story. I'm an old guy, so now I got a lot of stories. So we were coming into San Francisco. There's a big article in the LA Times about this. This was about 1997 or so. So we came in, and as we're coming to our hotel, I had some depositions up in Sacramento the next day. So I was going to get up, drive up, do my depositions, come back, and then Pam and I are going to spend a day or so before we drove down the Big Sur coast to Southern California. But we get to this place and the street is dug up in the middle of the street. So we have to drive right along by the sidewalk, go up a block, turn and go down a block and pull into the valet parking for the hotel there around Union Square. And it was the only other time I heard this much emergency equipment. It was like Armageddon. Every siren was going off in San Francisco as I got out of the car. And I'm like, what happened? So we checked into the hotel, and I ran down, I think, to a McDonald's there and got something. So it was like 10:30, 11 at night. We came back, we opened up our sandwiches in the hotel, and they break in with the news report. Massive explosion rocks Union Square area. What had happened was where we had driven in front of this building, a quarter of a city block exploded from a gas explosion.
No way.
Killed 4 people, and it killed 2 people. I researched it. It killed 2 people that we saw. I remember seeing them standing on the street as we drove by. And so between the time that we drove 2 blocks, that thing exploded. So it was sort of a close call. But, so God protects you, I guess. That's one thing to say. But
yes,
we've had a few of those on our trip to California or out west, that long trip we took for our 50th wedding anniversary. West Texas, on Interstate 10. It's 80 miles an hour speed limit. So and there's nobody around. I mean, there's hardly any high traffic. There's no houses or anything that you can see for miles and miles. There, as I told PM in South Dakota, we live in a very, very, very big country, a very big, beautiful country. But there are a lot of places in this country where there are more telephone poles than people by an order of magnitude of many times. So we're driving along. I saw a couple birds up there feeding on a carcass, so I kind of pulled over to the right. I didn't slow down. And as we get up beside it, these 7-foot wingspan vultures. And I guess one of them had finished his snack and decided to take off and flew right into our windshield.
Wow.
So did not break the windshield, though, thank heavens. But I hope he died Pam and I were joking, like, I'm a Bible prophecy guy, so is there some Bible prophecy lesson to be taken from getting hit by a vulture in Texas? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not that smart, so.
Wow. It just tells you, man, things are escalating. So did you see this video of these guys? They were doing their job as federal law enforcement. And look at this guy with the cement. He's breaking the cement to try and throw at police cars.
I saw him doing that at like rock gardens up along the freeway.
Yeah.
Breaking the rocks apart.
Yeah.
You know how you have those decorative rocks all cemented together there in the median strips? They were doing that and throwing them over the side, busting windows on police cars. I mean, that's attempted murder. There's no other way to say it. Has to be tried as attempted murder.
Absolutely. Now, this gets even crazier. Watch this. That was insane, right? Now, this guy, listen to this guy. Destroying the flag.
Police have just fired
over a flag. I took my flag and I slapped it on the ground because obviously the state of America. I'm dragging them because they're dragging us. And over a flag, y'all saw.
I think he's upset because Pride Month is canceled.
What happened? Listen, I'm here because there's people that can't be here. And I'm willing to endure that. If a U.S. citizen has to endure that for every human to get rights.
Can you just tell me the feeling among Angelenos here?
I'm born and raised here. I'm 24 years old. I'm young. I know there's people here younger, older than me. It's immigrants built this city. There's no denying that. And when they're trying to take that out, it's not okay. It's just not okay.
How about go get a job, youngster?
Yeah, you're 24, and in 2 or 3 years you have a chance to be 25. The way you're going.
Yeah.
I'm not very sympathetic to it. You know, there are rules. We have rules everywhere. I will tell you though, LA, you better go down there to the LA Long Beach Harbor and lock it down because you may have Greta showing up on a boat here pretty soon. Yeah. That'll teach you.
That's if he gets out of the Middle East safely.
Well, she's got some. I think I heard that in Israel, the defense minister Katz said that she was going to sit in a room while they played that 41-minute video that they put together about what happened on October 7th.
Yeah, she needs a life lesson, right?
I would make her sit there and watch it many times.
Yep. In its entirety.
Right. And then look, you can take the sack of flour that you had on that boat and you can take it down to Hamas in Gaza. And we'll come down and get you in a couple months.
Oh, man, I tell you.
You can sit there and you know, you can sit there and spend time with your compatriots.
Oh man. So John, I know you
So
saw
is this
this.
somebody going down is this one of the cops going down the street getting thrown bricks at him?
I think so. I think these are the agents that are trying to do their job.
I guess, you know, having hit that vulture at about 80 miles an hour, that I feel that we were Lord protected us on that one.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, I see them doxing these ICE officers and that type of thing as well, and their families are being harassed, and they're just doing their job. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really out of control. It really is. And I just pray that it doesn't get worse, but I fear that it will.
Yeah.
And
it's sad. And it's sad to see that these men are getting blamed for something that is not absolutely true.
yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of days I wake up and I'm like, thank you, Lord, for allowing me to live to be an old man. And I don't, one way or the other, I don't think I have to put up with this forever. But it's really changed. I mean, it's really changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
I saw a lot of people propagating on their posts. They're like, "Oh, the world is changing." I'm like, "Yeah, but the way you're saying it, it's not changing for the better for you."
No, it's certainly intensifying. You know, and we talk about this in Bible prophecy all the time. It's become much more intense.
Mm-hmm. It is very intense, and I just can't believe that these people are doing this still. Isn't this like vandalism?
Can I just ask a simple question here? What's the purpose of a keffiyeh on a immigration riot in the United States?
And a lot of these people that are rioting, they wouldn't even be allowed in Gaza.
I know. Well, maybe we should take the people in Gaza, let the ones that want to leave, and take these people to replace them, if they think it's such a great place. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, by the way, they were always saying it was a really lousy place. It was an open air prison. Now, every day on my X feed, I see pictures of how wonderful Gaza was. Well, which was it? So you've just been lying all the time. That's the king. That's the
pretty much, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if you have one. You may have it in your clips. I saw these guys shouting in L.A., Allahu Akbar, as they're burning cars. What's up with that?
I did see that video, and I wish I did have that clip. But yeah, that was maddening. I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me right now? You're yelling that in Los Angeles? But it did say in that news clip I did play that the Muslim Brotherhood is going to join the fight in Los Angeles to cause a rupture.
I'm pretty sure that in some senses they already have. I think we're in a very, very, very difficult situation right now with regard to who has been allowed to infiltrate the United States. I don't know the extent of it, but there was nothing done. There were millions of people that came across the border. Do you think they all came here to get jobs at Wendy's or McDonald's?
No, not at all.
And so there are sleeper cells, and I'm concerned about it. I tell people you need to be situationally aware to protect yourself and your family, because this is everywhere. It was probably 9 years ago, Vinny, I was going over to a meeting at a building that I used to work in downtown Columbus, 1 block from the state capitol. Mm-hmm. And as I drove up and parked, I looked up. Now, it happened to be a 60-degree day in December in Columbus, Ohio, which is unusual. But the guy had on a form-fitting Under Armour shirt. He looked like he was built like an Ohio State linebacker. He had on, though, even though he had on a short-sleeve shirt, he had on a full balaclava hiding his face. The only thing you could see, yes. And he was walking down the street taking pictures of buildings. I have a picture of him. And he was clearly, we have a pretty large contingent of Somalians here in Columbus area. You know, we probably have had, I don't know how many they have in Minneapolis. I've heard a couple 100,000. We have at least 100,000 in Columbus. They have mosques. They even have areas where it's not public knowledge, but I've had police say that the areas around their mosque and stuff, they've kind of congregated in one part of town, are no-go zones for them in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow.
And this has been going on. Well, so that was probably 2016. The funny, I don't know if I was just aware. So I took pictures of them with my phone, taking pictures of the buildings, and I called the police, and they came over and interviewed me.
Wow.
And I know from connections that it made it up to Homeland Security. So I never knew what happened with it. But the guy was he was walking down the street casing the buildings. 1 block from the state capitol.
Wow.
And the police were clear. I mean, they didn't say much, but it was clear that they were like, this guy's up to no good, and thanks for calling. And we'll push this up through channels to Washington. But, you know, and I don't know if I just happened to be more aware. In fact, the last thing I did before I left my office to go to this meeting was I had booked, my wife had said a couple days before, it's time. We had never owned any guns. And she said, I think it's time. So I had just booked a concealed carry class, and we had just bought guns the night before. And then I saw this guy doing that, and I thought, well, my wife must have had she had some discernment there, I think.
Yeah. I would say so. She did have an epiphany to get a gun, so. Whew, but man, that's insane.
Yeah, but you know, the Islamic thing is a big deal. I know that sometime while we're talking, and I'll watch it later, the Israel guys over that had organized the Israel Summit. Pam and I were thinking about going, but the trip kind of took a lot out of us, so we decided to watch it on live stream. But the Israel Summit in Dallas, of all places, got canceled because of threats. And that law enforcement said you need to cancel. The governor of Texas said you need to cancel. So I know the Hiltons and some of the people who are supposed to talk at the conference are doing a live stream here this evening on the Israel Guys channel. So you might want to go over and catch that after.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you got to send me a link to that too.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
So it might be at 8 o'clock. I don't know. It might be at 8 Eastern. I can't remember what time they were doing it. But look, this is a big deal. This is a pro-Israel summit that's had to cancel in the United States. They had a public facility, like a convention center in Arlington. And it's not like Arlington is not a place where they have big crowds gather all the time anyway, right?
Right.
They've got the Cowboys. They've got the Rangers Stadium, all this stuff there. And the guys, the Israel guys, said that the city of Arlington said, well, if you want to hold it and want us to help you with security, you'll get a bill from us for $560,000.
Wow, wow.
And so and so they moved it over to a private center, And the people that were making the threats, it's clearly that these are Hamas and terror-related organizations. They started making the threats again, and they had to cancel it again. And by the way, a year ago, they held their Israel summit in Nashville. For months, they had advertised the summit as taking place at the airport Sonesta Hotel. And just before the conference, the Sonesta Hotel was getting threats, so they canceled. And Dave Ramsey, the financial guy, he stepped up and said, "You can use my center, and we'll provide security free of charge." But but understand this is happening to Christian ministries in the United States of America as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the world was 6 months ago is not the world that we live in today.
Oh, definitely not. Everything has changed so rapidly, and I told people the agenda. I don't know if you've ever read the 100-year plan of for the Nation of Islam.
Sure.
Yeah, and it says in their plan, once they're done with the Saturday people, they're coming for the Sunday crowd.
So, on that same trip that I talked about where I had the emergency equipment roaring up to the intersection there on South Crenshaw Boulevard in LA.
Yes.
On my way to the airport, the day that I flew in, I went out to San Bernardino to play golf.
Okay.
There were sheriff deputies all over the place on the 10 freeway in San Bernardino. Exits were closed in the middle. This was in the morning. It was when that terrorism attack occurred in San Bernardino, and they killed, I don't know how many people. It was across the street from an Amazon facility where some friends of mine worked. So, I mean, that was probably 26. I don't remember when that, I think that was 2016.
Right.
But so this has been a problem for a long time. So I talked a lot about it at the time. I did a lot of research. And, there are these Muslim lawyer associations that have been pushing to get Islamic Sharia favorable judges appointed to federal benches and other judgeships throughout the United States. And so that was I think that was around the fall of 2016 when that happened. In the spring of 2016, I probably got videos from it on my computer someplace. Mm-hmm. They had held a big gala in Los Angeles to honor, that was the Muslim Lawyers Association of America or something like that.
No kidding.
And they had a bunch of people there associated with, so 2016 was the Obama administration. I'm not so sure that Hillary Clinton had not been at that gala event herself. So, I mean, this is a long-standing problem. It's one of these things where, the statement that I've used, you pull it out of this Hemingway novel, the two guys in the novel are talking and they say, well, how did you go bankrupt? And the guy says, well, I went bankrupt two ways. First gradually, then suddenly. And so in fact, my title of my update yesterday was Thresholds, because I was thinking about this because we don't really recognize it until it's reached a certain threshold. And I think this is going to be the way some of these things happen in the end times, that we talk about it when all the time it's moving along gradually in the background, and then suddenly it appears in front of our eyes. I think an example of this, it would be AI, in the way AI is developing and how this seems to be tied to this end times beast system that we talk about a lot. By the way, I'm going to do host another roundtable with Patrick Wood and Britt Gillette and Scott Townsend and Pete Garcia on June 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to go to Fellowship Bible Chapel YouTube channel and Britt Gillette's YouTube channel, he usually streams it live, so you can watch it then.
Wow, this is insane.
But the AI stuff is developing incredibly quickly. and there's no guardrails on it. The people, in fact, I had an insider sent me an email this morning about what's going on, because I mentioned the fact, where are the safety teams that people are putting in place to take care of everything? And the answer is, they may be there, but nothing's happening. And so can I read you the quote from my friend that wrote this to me?
Yes, please do.
I won't
Please
identify him. He's an AI insider. He says, I'm one that worked this AI group at my company. I've been in this field for 35 years. And he said, the problem we are seeing is that AI tools procured to do tasks like XYZ are expanding outside their scope regardless of the access controls that are applied to them by the people who are developing the AI tools. And so the AI is designed, he said, to expand its knowledge at all costs. And so everybody runs around and says, we want AI to stay in its lane. We want it to stay where, and the answer is it's not doing that. It's not designed to do that. And it's out of control. And they just enacted legislation. I don't know if it's going to pass the Senate yet, but the House passed a bill that says no state in the United States can do anything to regulate AI for 10 years. And that's pretty scary, because these tools are pretty powerful. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of videos that are done with totally with AI, and within a day, these are like high definition Hollywood type production with special effects. Done by just people with their computer using AI tools available online. So I think that we've got some big problems.
Yeah, we have a lot of big problems. And John, one of my moderators, Pookie, just found the video that you were talking about earlier.
Which one? Muslim Lawyers Association?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So thanks, Pookie. Yeah, it's out there. I mean, it really took like 20 seconds to find it after I heard about it. And I don't remember why I heard about it, but I just came across Muslim Lawyers Association. I looked it up. They had videos. They had a gala. And I think it was in LA. This was the spring before this terrorist attack in San Bernardino.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. It's out there. That was a quick find. That was quick.
See? Not that hard to find. Not that I'm denigrating Pookie by saying it's easy to find, but if you look, you can find this stuff. So I was given last week access. Well, it's online now, but it was released to the press. I was able to get some access through it, by making some announcements or pulling in some favors, or just ask, hey, would you help me out here? And the nation of France did a big report on the impact of the Muslim Brotherhood that's in the country right now and what's going to happen.
Yeah, the European Union, they have a lot of problems coming their way.
Right. But we're not immune from this. That's the problem.
Right. We're definitely not immune from it. As a matter of fact, somebody said the other day that there at least, 1,800 Iranian terrorists that are inside the country right now.
I have no doubt. And by the way, and you see, I don't know if you've seen Sarah Adams talking on some of the, what's that guy's name? Sean Ryan's show about the terrorist attacks that are coming. And they use specific dates that they want to repeat these things because they want the date to be tied to a historical date of significance. I was doing some research recently, Vinny. I mean, this is a huge problem. So I saw somebody talking today who knows a lot about this area, and I cannot remember who it was, but they said that what we were so appalled at with ISIS and Iraq and ISIS in Syria a few years back, those people were like rookies, or they were nothing compared to what Islam has been historically. And I had heard this on the Dennis Prager show about a decade ago and kind of found a way, and then somebody brought it up again. In the Middle Ages, in the 1200s, 1300s, Islam invaded India. India's always been a pretty populous place. In those invasions, Islam killed somewhere between 400 and 800 million people. It's the largest genocide in human history, and it's almost never discussed about historically as a historical fact. That's Islam. And I'm just telling you, we have a problem. I'm not saying all Muslims are like that, okay? But the radicals are the ones that sort of set the agenda. And they're the ones we need to be concerned about. And we saw what happened down there in Gaza not 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the left doesn't care. And the left doesn't care because they are, at least in some respects, ideologically aligned with what they want to do.
Well, they're all communists.
Yeah, it's Trevor Loudon, who I interviewed a couple months ago, calls it the red-green axis, or red-green alliance, or something like that. And it's true, it's there. I mean, and nobody, I don't know, even in the Trump administration, I don't think people are talking about it enough.
No. And here's what I just found. Now look at this. The propagator herself, Maxine Waters.
I want you to, hello, Congresswoman Waters. I just came to use my congressional authority.
Her congressional authority, guys.
Excuse me, I need to get in. I need to get in.
She needs to get in. Oh, perfect. He closed the door in her face.
What are you hoping to do, Congresswoman?
I just want to see David Werther. Right.
You know, I don't know if this is an appropriate thing to say, but, you know, Simone Biles, the great gymnast, gold medal winning gymnast, had really gone after Riley Gaines over the weekend about, why are you trying to keep transgender people out of sport? And somebody put up like a little AI picture. Simone, you know, you see these things on YouTube all the time, like what people look like when they were 20 and what people look like when they're 65. So somebody put up a picture of Simone Biles today, Simone Biles at 65, and they put Maxine Waters' picture in there.
Did they give her the wig too?
Yeah. I thought it was pretty funny, but, you know, that's me.
I love that humor. I wish I had that meme.
Yeah.
Because I'm the type of person, John, I would post it.
Yeah, it's on X someplace, but it was pretty funny. You know, Simone Biles in 20 and 30 years, and it was Maxine Waters. Because the hate really does that to you. It has an impact on how you look.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Hate destroys you real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Oh, man. So, I was going to ask you this. Where do you see this going? Because I don't think this is going to end anytime soon.
I said yesterday in my prophecy update, and I said this when Trump was coming into office. You know, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Trump will slow things down. The end times, we're on a pause and that type of thing." And I said, regardless of how you feel about him and regardless of what he does, we're at the point where nothing is slow. Nothing. What's the saying? Normal's not coming back, but Jesus is.
Yes.
So we need to remember that. And so this is the time that God has allowed us to live. So we need to make the best out of it, you know, and use it as an evangelistic tool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I watched the roundtable with you, Gary McKibben. Who else was on there? Lee Brainerd.
J.B. Hickson.
Yes.
L.A. Marzulli was there for a while. Kurt Reed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And it's funny because a lot of stuff that you guys were talking about, it's funny how it's all, you know, like going fast forward right now as we speak.
Yeah, that's it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so let me ask you your opinion on the guy that they call the Pope. I call him the Pope with no hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the guy's kind of a mixed bag. So there's some things that he's a traditionalist on, but then he talks about, you know, his love for Pope Francis. Pope Francis was a theological disaster. Pope Francis was a Marxist liberation theologian in a papal dress or whatever they call that, smock or whatever it is that they wear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and so when the guy can't tell the truth about Francis, that's kind of low hanging discernment fruit. Mm-hmm. So I'm not impressed with the guy, to tell you the least. Plus, he's a White Sox fan too. So.
Oh yeah, he's definitely toast. Because the only thing that I have to say about this is that the Romans are the ones that persecuted the Christians. So I don't trust anything that comes out of Rome.
You know, it's very interesting. I've been to Rome. We stopped there on the way back from Israel 30 years ago. It was almost exactly 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we were only there for 24 hours. And we saw a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I'm old enough that I actually took Latin in high school. Okay? It was actually good preparation for taking New Testament Greek that I minored in college. So that was good. But, you know, it's not like you go someplace that speak Latin. But you learn a lot about Roman history. And the one thing that was apparent to me on that trip, I took two books. I took the Bible with me, and I took a copy of Dave Hunt's A Woman Rides the Beast. Now, whether you agree with his conclusions in that book or not, it was an incredible piece of work. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's in print anymore. You may be able to find it on the archive library at archive.org, the internet library. You should
I've heard a lot about this book. I need to try and find it.
I don't know if I have I think I gave my copy to somebody, but it was incredible to be reading that when we were going through all these places in Israel and then in Rome that are Catholic sites. And the one thing that you saw in Rome, if you understood history and everything, was they just sort of put a Christian veneer over a lot of these pagan Roman temples and called them churches. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty apparent. And because there's a lot of, and so Dave's book I thought was very well done, very accurate. And if people can get a hold of it, I would highly recommend that they read it. So it would have come out about I'm going to guess about 1993.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't know if it's available. If it's available at the archive, the internet. I don't know if you ever run across that, the Internet Archive Open Library. You can get a lot of books there. Just sign up for a free account, and you can get a lot of books. Some that are out of print and hard to find.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I need to check that out because there's some books that I'm interested in that are not in print anymore.
So for example, I'll give you one. I was able, with a friend who now lives in Texas, a very good book for, let's see, I think I have it here on my shelf. It was by Joan Peters. It's called From Time Immemorial. And it's about the origins of the Arab-Jewish conflict over Palestine. She was a journalist, and she set out to prove that, like, Israel had no right to the land. And she wrote this book, so it's probably, I'm guessing, about 600 pages. It was published in 1984, and it is a very detailed history, but it's out of print. So a friend of mine said, hey, I found a place that had 2 copies. So he bought one and I bought the other. So this one I'm not giving away, but I think you can find it at the library at archive.org.
Yeah, I want to read that book. And I bet she was proven wrong as she tried to do that research.
Well, the book is very pro-Israel. So whatever she started to do, it turned out that it was not, she couldn't write the book. She had to be truthful. So it's an excellent book. And I know that it's available at the library there at archive.org.
Oh, cool. I think I might want to pick that up. You know, that's funny. It's kind of like what happened to C.S. Lewis when he was an atheist.
Yeah.
And he was doing his research, and all of a sudden he turned his life around.
Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting how the Lord works with that.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend that you find, I mean, you can find like complete copies of Greek New Testaments and stuff like that, and you can check it out while you're working on it. So I've never had anything that, of course, I'm not reading current titles or anything like that, but it's a great resource.
Oh, I bet. 600 pages. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty detailed.
So that means it'll take me about 2 months to read.
Yeah, you have to read it online. So I'm looking here. So here's a copy of A Woman Rides the Beast, available, publication date 1994, available at the Internet Archive. So if you want to read it, go ahead, and you have to sign in, and well, the whole thing is available. Goodness.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you what. I'll send you a link to it.
Okay.
Because I think the book's out of print.
Yeah. There's certain books.
You can post it in the show notes, and then everybody will go to try to see it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I just texted you the link, so you can post that as you want. But it's a book I would highly recommend, and it will help you understand where the popes are coming from. I don't remember when John Paul became the pope.
Wasn't it in the 80s?
I think it was. So this book was after John Paul II.
Okay.
Well, and then we had that John Paul I guy for like 28 days. And then a lot of conspiracy theories about what happened to him. But I just think you will understand a lot about this. So let me go back to Francis for a moment. So in 2014, and I've done videos on this and talked about it. In 2014, and it's interesting. I talked about this stuff 11 years ago when it happened, and it still comes back as relevant because of like when Tucker Carlson does an interview with this so-called Lutheran pastor from Bethlehem named Munther Isaac.
Oh, that guy.
Espousing pro-Palestinian views. The stuff sort of cycles back. So Francis went to Bethlehem in 2014. He went to Bethlehem. He, of course, made the visit to the wall between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. And that wall was not, it has gates and everything, but it was mainly designed to keep them from firing sniper shots at people in Jerusalem. That's why they put the wall there. And the wall doesn't encircle Bethlehem, despite what some of these pro-Palestinian lunatics claim. But he went to Manger Square and did a mass. And there in the mass, there was the three wise men were Pope John the 23rd, Pope Paul the 6th, and Pope John Paul the 2nd. Mary had a burqa on, and Joseph had a keffiyeh, and the baby Jesus was laying on top of keffiyeh in the manger.
Oh, my.
Right there in the square next to the Church of the Nativity, which everybody agrees is the oldest church in Christendom. First church, the oldest one that is existent. Parts of it built by Constantine's mother back in the, what was her name? Helena, built back in the 300s.
Man, these
AD.
people have some real wacky theories, don't they?
And so, but the baby Jesus in the keffiyeh, when the interview from Tucker Carlson of Munther Isaac came out a year ago, April, and he was spewing all of these lies, and Tucker never challenged him because Tucker's bought and paid for it. Okay, he's got an agenda. It's a very dark agenda. About the time people started calling him out on it, but he's very influential. And so Munther Isaac, I've met him. I've met Munther Isaac. He's involved with the thing called Christ at the Checkpoint. He himself is a liberation theologian, just like Francis. And so,
so let me ask you: is he a Jesuit?
Munther Isaac?
Yeah.
No, Francis was a Jesuit.
Yes.
But Munther Isaac is a Lutheran. Claims to be a Lutheran pastor. And I know these guys, then I've met them at conferences and that type of thing. And so what's he do? He's got the baby Jesus in the manger, wrapped in a keffiyeh, laying on a pile of rubble. And because Jesus was a Palestinian refugee, Jesus was a Gazan. That's how they blaspheme the life of Christ.
Wow.
And so that's what Pope Francis did. That's what Munther Isaac does. That's what Christ at the Checkpoint does. That's what Stephen Sizer, who's was an Anglican guy. Even the Anglicans got rid of him, as I recall. So anyway, I think it's a very big deal. And then all of a sudden now here comes Tucker Carlson doing this narrative that Jesus was a Palestinian refugee. Jesus was Jewish. He was not Palestinian. There was nobody Palestinian there at that time. It later became called Palestine, but the whole narrative about this area is incorrect. Let me give you an example. State of Israel came into being in 1948. At the time, so there was a war of independence. Until recently, it was Israel's longest war. Now the war with the Gaza war has exceeded that.
Yes.
But at the time of the War of Independence in 1948 and 49, the Arabs controlled Gaza through Egypt. The Arabs controlled the areas called the West Bank. That's actually biblical Judea and biblical Samaria, the biblical heartland of the Bible. That was controlled by Jordan, the Arabs. Now, how many Palestinian states, when the Arabs controlled the area, did they create? And the answer is 0.
Thank you.
Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to create the original, quote, Palestinian Arab state was to be Jordan. And so Jordan controlled Judea and Samaria for 18 or 19 years, till the 67 war. During that time, they never created a Palestinian state. If you went to King Hussein II, or King Abdullah II, I'm sorry, of Jordan, right now and ask him, would you accept Palestinian Arabs from Gaza?
He would say no.
He would kick you out of the country. If you went to al-Sisi in Egypt and asked him, he would kick you out of the country. If you went to
Yemen?
Yemen, they would kick you out of the country. If you went to Syria and asked, I believe his name is now al-Shara, keeps changing. As I've said, he changes his names about as much as Elizabeth Taylor changed husbands. But now he's al-Shara. If you went to al-Shara and said, hey, well, why don't you take some of these people, Arabs from Gaza, he would laugh in your face because they know better. So Israel's, though, is supposed to give them a state. The whole thing is insane. And yet it drives all over Los Angeles, and I fear soon over many cities in the United States, you will see the Palestinian flag and the keffiyeh scarf everywhere. And so it is sort of a central core issue of our time. And I would also say that it's prophetic because we knew this was coming.
Yeah, it sure is. And man, it's madness going on. And I see the people in the Jewish community, like in the Fairfax area, it's actually dwindling. People are like leaving fast in droves, going back to Israel.
Who's going back to Israel? Jews?
Yeah.
Yeah, the people making Aliyah has increased dramatically.
Yes.
So it's, I don't know, Vinny, this is a very interesting time to be alive. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and I tell everybody says, oh, America's going to be great again. And I said, well, I don't see that. I don't see it right now.
I don't. And I think if we don't get, I know this is controversial, but I believe it firmly. If we don't get our act together vis-a-vis Israel and do the right thing, it's not going to be great again. It just won't happen.
Yeah, because I don't know if you talked about this yet, John, but what about the 3 pro-Israel folks that were in Trump's cabinet that he let go last week?
I'm not super aware of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that happened last week.
Well, that's not good. And it's happening all the time. By the way, if you go to Fellowship Bible Chapel's website, fbchapel.com, if you're interested in going, I'm organizing a tour for Israel in October, but we're coming up on the deadline. So if you're interested in that, go there tonight, check out the information, and sign up if you want to. So we'll be doing a tour of Israel, sort of standard, some stuff. We'll be there during Sukkot. And then there's going to be an option for like a 5-day Heartland extension. Because my concern and I've been on these Israel tours, is you kind of go around the perimeter of the Heartland. So we're going to try to go into some of the parts in the Heartland to the extent that we can, subject to being changed by war. But I think you're going to go some places that'll blow your mind. So
this is going to be in October, huh?
October 6th through the 16th is the regular tour, then a 5-day extension for Judea, Samaria.
Oh, nice.
As much as we can, and maybe some extra things in Jerusalem. It's kind of up in the air because it's kind of hard to plan exactly. But we're going to bring in some of the contacts that I have over there to talk to the groups and stuff like that. So I think it'd be worth it if you can go.
Absolutely.
FEChapel.com, in the upper right-hand corner, it'll say little thing like a link for John Haller Israel Tour or something like that. So,
yeah, Lord willing, that trip happens in October.
Yeah, just let everybody keep a level head for at least a few weeks, in advance and a few weeks after. But
man.
I will say, if you've not been on an Israel tour, you don't have to do it with me. I know Olivier and Tom Hughes are doing tours too in October. I think Chris Quintana and Jim Fletcher are doing one as well. It really is a life-changing experience if you let it. It will bring the Bible to life. It will give you evidence. So one of the things we hope to do, I'm praying that it will be finished, is to walk the pilgrimage road from the Pool of Siloam to the Temple Mount. I've been on a large part of it. It wasn't quite finished being excavated, so they hope to be opening that early this fall. So maybe we'll be some of the first to be able to do that. But that's a very historical and prophetic thing that's happening in Jerusalem and may be open by the time we get there in October.
Wow, that's going to be cool.
I interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago named Duran Spielman. Duran is a former spokesperson for the IDF, very smart guy, and he just wrote a book called When the Stones Speak. He worked with the city of David for 20-some years. So he's just written a book on it. I did a short interview with him about it. I think you should read it. And the city of David that's like the Jerusalem of David. And it was really hidden. It really was not excavated or anything until the last 25 years.
Wow.
And it was underneath this Arab village. Mm-hmm. And now you go down in there and you see all kinds of artifacts that they found. They found this road. And there's no doubt that this is the road that Jesus would have walked on from the Pool of Siloam to the Temple Mount. So it's very, very biblical. It's not just Jewish. It's Jewish and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very significant. So hopefully we'll be doing that in October.
That's cool that he wrote that.
We'll be on part of it. I can guarantee that.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's cool that he did that, because Jesus even said, even if you tell the people to be quiet, the rocks even will cry out.
Yeah, you know who Jack Hibbs is, right?
Yep.
So at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, when they dedicated that auditorium that they have, under the pulpit, they put rocks that they had picked up on the Palm Sunday path. And I talked to Jack about it, and he said we did it because it said that if I kept quiet, the rocks would speak. So he said, our goal here is to never have the rocks speak that are under the pulpit because we're proclaiming the truth here. It's a very, very cool thing that they did there at Chino Hills.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's a huge sanctuary too. It looks like a movie. It looks like a theater that you go and see a show at.
Yeah, it's a big sanctuary.
Yeah. You can get lost in there quick, John.
I've been there many times. So it's not like, by the way, that's not Fellowship Bible Chapel. It was funny. A couple years ago, we went to a fundraiser for a local Christian ministry. And some lady came up. She goes, "Oh, I love your prophecy updates. I watch you every Sunday." She lived about 20 miles away. And she goes, I would come. She goes, but I'm afraid I would be intimidated in a church so big. And I'm like, how big do you think Fellowship Bible Chapel is? She goes, oh, we got to have 2,000-3,000 people every Sunday. And I'm like, we averaged 58 people on Sunday morning last year. 58. So the numbers on YouTube are a little bit bigger than that. So, but so people have a misconception as to how big we are. We're just a little tiny church that puts stuff online so people could watch.
Yeah. We go to a small church too. It's about 150 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with the internet, you can sort of punch above your weight class, so to speak.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if there is a weight class above my weight class, but
yeah, I'm thinking there's probably just a small touch above mine. Because we're a couple of big guys here.
Yeah, I'll tell you I don't know if this is interesting or not, but I had this epiphany when I was in high school. So I was the heavyweight wrestler at my high school, the varsity.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm a senior, but I'd only been wrestling for a year. So I'm wrestling these guys been wrestling since they were 3, like Tiger Woods played golf when he was 2. These guys were wrestling when they were 2. So they had a little bit more knowledge. Now I was able to win some and lose some, and not get completely beat up. But at Christmas break, we were getting ready for a tournament, and this guy showed up. This guy, then, he was 6'5", 285 pounds, and I would be overestimating if I said he had 3% body fat. Red hair, and Coach goes, "Hey, Haller, you get to wrestle Gary here tonight." And I'm looking over at him, and I look around the room, and I see my friends, they're kind of holding their hands in front of their face laughing.
Yeah.
This guy went to Clarion, which was an NCAA Division I wrestling school. And he was the number 4 ranked heavyweight in NCAA Division I.
Okay.
And so, he's like a mountain of a man. I'm a high school kid. I shave like maybe once a week. Okay. And I remember the coach blew the whistle, and I tried to block him when he was coming at me. And I kind of remember falling through the air before I passed out because he had me in a headlock so tight I couldn't breathe. So, of course, he pins me. I hear the whistle, kind of woke me up. And it was that moment that I decided that, Haller, you're getting no scholarship offers or anything like that. You're going to have to work. You're going to make it with your mind, not your athletic ability in this life. So it was a good life example at that moment.
Oh, man. Wow. So you got pinned.
But by the time I got back up, my friends were no longer hiding their faces behind their hands and laughing. They were just laughing, out loud. So
I think they knew what was coming, right?
It continued. He got in the down position. He said, knock me down. And it was like, It literally was like trying to knock over an oak tree stump with my bare hands. I couldn't budge him, and I'm looking around, everybody's just cracking up. Like, look at Haller. I'm like, hey, do you want to change places? No. We're enjoying watching you get your rear end beat by this guy. So anyway, the Lord gave me a very good life lesson early on in my life.
Yeah, never wrestle 500-pound redheads.
Well, he was only 285, but goodness.
Wow, 285. That was a big man.
He was a big guy.
Wow.
He looked like he could bench press, a Buick or a Volkswagen at least. Strong guy.
So have you ever ran into that guy in your lifetime afterwards?
Nope, never did.
Wow.
I grew about 4 inches after that, so I'm, in most directions. I grew 4 inches. But so I'm bigger now, but I still wouldn't want to take him on.
I've always wanted to ask you, what made you want to go and practice law?
So we just had our 50th anniversary, got married. I was 21, met her when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had all these plans, like I was going to teach, probably. I was going to go get a PhD and teach at the university level and do research. But on about our third date, I said to her, Pam, I care for you a lot. You're the kind of person I'd like to marry. And she said, I accept.
Nice.
And I'm like, well, what was going through my head was, there goes the PhD, there go the research grants, because now I got a wife I've got to support and everything. So I don't even know if I kissed her, to be honest with you. I took her back to her dorm room, and I went back a few hours later to see her, and I said, what did you think happened there today? She goes, you proposed and I accepted. That's what people say when they're proposing. Well, what did I know? I'm 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
And there was like no manual. Like you say anything that could be arguably a proposal is a proposal.
Right.
So she goes, listen, she said, I've made up my mind a long time ago about you. If you need more time, you take your time. So as I've talked about it, I said, so eventually I accepted my own proposal. And it just happened that one day I worked at a elementary school at night. I was the guy who won American Idol this last year, Richard or whatever his name was, the custodian from Terre Haute, Indiana. Mm-hmm. I was the night custodian at a grade school in Warsaw, Indiana. And I was driving home one night, and I thought, maybe I could go to law school. So I came home, and I said, Pam, what if I went to law school? And she said, okay. So that's sort of, because I just figured that might be a way that I might be able to provide a little bit better for, our family.
Right.
So, it was a good career and gave us some opportunities. So.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like I had some big life plan to be a lawyer. It just sort of like, I remember the place where I was driving when it popped into my head. Hey, why don't you go to law school, idiot? You idiot. So.
Wow.
Anyway.
Wow. And you practiced for a long time.
Yeah, it was 45 years ago that I got my law license. I still have my law license, still have a couple little things I'm working on, but,
mm-hmm.
I've moved on with other things in my life. So.
Yeah. That's
putting.
I got to tell you, that's
putting, golf, and Bible prophecy. Not necessarily in that order.
Hey, Bible prophecy and a little bit of golf doesn't hurt anybody.
That's right.
Well, it's good that you that you went through that whole journey in your life. I mean, look at where you're at right now. I mean, you know.
Yeah, look, it was great. The Lord blessed me by getting me meeting the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, we just had our 50th anniversary a week ago. And
Yeah.
and let's be honest, it's been easy for her. This isn't going out on the internet or anything, is it?
No, sorry, it's going on. It's going also to iHeartRadio.
What you can cut that part out, right?
Okay, yeah, we'll cut that. We'll cut that part out.
She's
Sorry,
heard me
Pam.
talk about it before, you know.
Oh man,
So,
yeah. You know, I always tell people it took me a long time. It just wasn't in the cards for me in the beginning. I mean, it was at a point in time where I'm like, oh man, I guess it's just not for me. But then in 2015, you know, the Lord had something different.
yeah.
You know, because I was like, man, I give up.
Yeah, you know, it was it worked out. And when she said she'd made up her mind, she had sent a picture to her mother after our first date and said some other guy had asked her out. And she said, well, I wish I was going with John to this banquet tonight, but because he's the one. And we'd had one date.
Mm-hmm.
So I was toast, man, you know.
Yeah.
What can I say?
She hooked you.
Yep.
I'm glad that happened because now 50 years later, you can talk about it.
Yeah, you know, we've had a good time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, folks, there's still hope.
Yeah, if Haller can get somebody, how hard can it be, right?
There's hope for all of us. Yeah, you know,
If I could go back, Vinny, I would tell you I would have married her right after I proposed.
Oh,
Because I
wow.
was ready.
Mm-hmm. Especially when she said, I accept right away.
Yeah. I mean, like, so this is our first date. So we're going to a banquet.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't wear a tie too often, but I had a sport coat and tie on and everything. And I picked her up, and as she's getting in the car, she turns to me and says, "You look very handsome tonight."
Mm-hmm.
So I have to respond, right? Now, listen, I'm 20 years old, okay? I didn't date a lot. So what do you think I said, Mr. Cool here? I said, "Oh, thanks. You don't look so bad yourself."
Oh, no!
So I closed the door, started walking around the car, and I'm like, who was that moron? It was like an out-of-body experience. Who was that moron who showed up and said that stupid thing? But in the end, it didn't make any difference because it was a lock, man. It was a lock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was already settled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good for you. Because if it wasn't settled, it could have went a different direction.
Yeah, you know, it worked out. So the first 5 years we were married, I was had a year of college, a year of graduate school, in one of the worst cities we've ever lived in, Terre Haute, Indiana. Got a master's, and then IU Law School. And she used to introduce me as, "This is my husband, John. He's still a student, and I'm looking forward to him graduating and supporting me in a manner to which I have not yet become accustomed." So she had a good sense of humor about it.
Oh, that's so cool. And I'm pretty sure she can tell you about it today, too, right?
Yeah, you know, it worked out. So, so
that's kind of
obviously
cool.
She's not done with me yet. Still has some things to work on,
Oh, man.
like making stupid statements on your first date. I don't have no idea why I said that. Obviously, I was not prepared.
It must be a guy thing, man, because I've said some pretty quirky things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you get home, you're like, did I really say that?
Yeah. So listen, you just have to make a commitment that you're going to stick together, and it really is for better, for worse. And but I can't. We joke she's a night person. Okay, she's like nocturnal.
Insomniac.
It was probably a blessing that we never had children, because she wouldn't have slept for 25 years. Because she's like the lightest sleeper. Me, she's like, the other day she's like, didn't you hear all those sirens going by and everything? How are you still over there sleeping? And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of a gift, but I'm a morning person, so I used to get up and go to the office at 2 or 2:30 in the morning a lot. And so I'm a morning person, she's a night person. So we're married 50 years, but only awake together for about 9 or 10.
Oh, wow.
Well, you know what I mean. She's sleeping when I'm up, and I'm up, and I'm at the office for 4 or 5 hours before she even rolls out of bed. So, but it works.
Right. So you got the day started early.
Yeah, it was great. I would go to the office at 3 in the morning and 2:30, 3 in the morning, and I'd get there and I'd have, most lawyers don't show up till about 9 o'clock. Right. So I'd have like 6 hours before anybody showed up to get stuff done.
Hey, that was that wrestling mentality. Be ahead of schedule.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That's how my coach was in high school. He would call the house. I'd pick up the phone. It's like 5:30 in the morning. He goes, hey, while you're sleeping, what's the other guy doing? I said, getting better. He goes, all right, get to work.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah. So, yeah. Training.
So anyway, so you want to ask me before we go, what do I think is going to happen next? And then the answer is, there's potentially a lot of things that could happen just this week, and when I get together with like Tom Hughes or Olivier or Brandon Holdhouse and we talk, it's sort of like, it's almost impossible to keep up with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I keep threatening that some Sunday I'm not going to prepare an update. I'm just going to get up there and open up my news feeds. And do it from there, because it really is that kind of a world right now, and I don't think it changes. Israel, the reports are Israel has practiced and they're ready to go to attack Iran. And I don't know whether they will or not. I know that there's a lot of people that don't want them to do that, because once they do that, that's going to set into place some other things. We have the war in Russia, Ukraine. I probably have a different view on that than some of my people. I have some friends, including pastors in Ukraine, that kind of give me a little bit different perspective. But what happened last week with Ukraine in this drone attack on the Russian bases, some of them 4,000 or more miles away from Ukraine, was just, in my view, it's completely changed the face of modern warfare.
Right.
This was a stunning operation. They used Russia's weaknesses against it. And so I think everybody that is looking at it that's in military, they ought to be saying, are there people who are planning to use our weaknesses against us, particularly on the Islamic front? Because we saw what happened with Israel. There was a very good article or Facebook post the other day by my friend Jonathan Spire, who's probably, I think he's sort of the preeminent military analyst and correspondent in the Middle East. Lives in Jerusalem. I've been able to interview him a couple times, and he said what happened, we got complacent with Hamas. We thought we could manage them. We thought that they were corrupt, and so we could give them some money and that type of thing. And how did that work out?
Not very good.
And then the answer, and so he said, so Jonathan Spire is a very superb expert on Syria. He spent a lot of time there, traveled all over the country during the war, the civil war that has been going on there since 2011. And he said, are we making the same mistakes with al-Shara? Because everybody's beating a path to al-Shara's door. Our ambassador was there meeting with him last week saying, oh, this guy is great. You know, you even hear Trump say, oh, he looks good in the suit and that type of thing. And are we lulling ourselves to sleep and not analyzing where this guy really comes from? So there was an article on Israel Hayom magazine back in December. I referenced it in my update yesterday. And it said that the spiritual advisor for al-Shara, the leader of Syria now, was saying at a conference in December, right around the time of the revolution taking place,
Right.
that the problem is Zionists in the world. Well, is that what al-Shara believes? And should we be trusting al-Shara at all on anything vis-a-vis Israel or vis-a-vis us?
No.
But we are. And I'm like, how stupid are we? We've just saw what Hamas did. We've seen it happen time and time again. And it seems like we're sort of walking into the same trap all over again. And I have to think that in some ways that blindness is a judgment from God on what we've done in our country and culture.
Yes. So, John, I'm going to ask you this question, though.
Okay.
Vladimir Putin says that he's going to seek revenge. What do you think that looks like?
Are you trying to get me in trouble? Because, there's a big difference of opinion in our community, our Bible prophecy community. It reminded me to talk about Tom Watchman River and his lawsuit before we get out of here.
Oh, man, pray for him.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to the topic. What were we talking about? What were we talking about?
Russia, Ukraine.
Oh, Russia, Ukraine. So there's differences of opinion, and everybody gets pretty passionate about their opinion, and everybody's sure they're right. So the thing that I don't think we understand is that the Russia-Ukraine thing has been going on for hundreds of years. It's not, and so we talk about like, well, Putin this and the NATO did this treaty or anything. All of that is just complete sideshow. Putin views Ukraine as part of Russia. That's the one thing we need to do. And sometimes in these geopolitical analyses, we sort of mix that with our Bible prophecy ideas about how this is going to work out. So you might have a view that Russia is part of Ezekiel 38 and 39. And my view is it could be, and seems to indicate that it is, but maybe not. But let's say that it is. But the thing that we have to be careful to do is we sort of judge modern geopolitics and what's going to happen in particular war so that our Bible prophecy view is supported. And I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to go about it. So people will say, well, Russia's going to be a major power in these end times things. So everything that they do, we don't like it, but it's okay. And I sort of take a little bit different view. So, but understand that this stuff has been going on for a long time. But listen, I watch all of these pro-Russian shills like Tucker Carlson and Douglas McGregor and guys I don't even want to mention, Jeffrey Sachs, and people I didn't want to mention the name because they're such despicable, creepy, immoral human beings.
Yes.
And you probably know who they are. But they have a view that's very skewed. When Tucker does his interview with Putin, Putin gives him a completely Putinized view of Russian and Ukrainian history that's not, in my view, accurate. But Tucker's not smart enough to know that he's being played.
So yeah.
So
let me ask you this. So
so I think that, and the other thing too is, and I remember hearing Douglas McGregor and others, John Mersheimer, he's another one. Oh my gosh, that guy just drives me out of my mind. And by the way, I think he wasn't one of the guys who wrote I don't know if he wrote the Israel Lobby. He's a very anti-Israel, anti-Jewish guy, just like Jeffrey Sachs. They hate Israel. Israel's the source of all
I think
problems.
Tucker Carlson hates Israel too.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And so everything gets filtered through that hatred, the way they analyze facts. And so, but I've heard Douglas McGregor and Sachs, what Putin's doing in Ukraine is the most brilliant military strategy and invasion in human history. Give me a break.
It's Russians killing Russians.
2.5 years. There's pretty good estimates, and some of them might be propaganda. Ukraine's lost a whole bunch of people.
Right.
Russia's got dead or casualties of 1 million people. They're bringing felons from prison in to fight, and they're bogged down in now CSIS, the Center for Strategic and something International Studies, Strategic and International Studies, CSIS. They just did a report last week on the Ukraine war, and they said, this is the slowest advance by any army in history. I was watching a video of a guy today, and I do not remember his name. It's like 15 minutes, and he said, Russia's lost 3,000 tanks since they started this war with Ukraine. They outnumber Ukraine by 3 or 4 to 1. They've not advanced very far. They have less territory today than they did 2 years ago. So I think we need to be realist about what's going on. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Russia is powerful. Putin has been threatening nukes for years. I've got videos of him back in 2018. If you guys mess with us, we'll take you out. We'll destroy each other in a nuclear war, and we will go to heaven, and we will go to paradise, and you will go to hell. He said that. I've got the video. So I think that it's a very critical thing. I think it's a very difficult thing for our president to deal with. By the way, the number of tanks destroyed that Russia had since this war started exceeded all the tanks in all of the NATO, in all of the European countries that existed 2 years ago. So it's a very significant thing. Their industrial base has been decimated. They are losing engineers. They're having trouble in their gas and oil production. So it's a very, very difficult situation. But the Russian bear is wounded. That makes them more volatile and dangerous, in my view.
Yeah. To me, it's just like they're two thugs duking it out, Russia and Ukraine. They're both thugs, both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and the problem is when you sort of be a realist with Putin, everybody says, oh, well, you must support Zelensky then. And it's like, no, they're kind of separate things. But we need to understand that with regard to Russia, it's a very spiritual thing that's going on with Putin. There's a Russian Orthodox quasi-Christian. It's not a real Christian thing that he's involved with. And so, he's sort of against some of the things that we might be against, so he must be okay. And that's just not a very good way to analyze it. So, but look, they're bigger. He's ex-KGB at the time of the Soviet Union collapse. They were employing like 1 million people full-time in propaganda. Well, those people didn't go away, and now we still have the problem. Russia's got a massive Muslim problem.
Yeah, 14 million.
Well, it might be more than that. There's some estimates that the population of Moscow is 25% Islamic. And they've been predicting for years that the Russian military would soon have a majority Islamic. I don't think they're there yet. I don't know the exact numbers on that. But 10 years ago, it was either foreign policy or foreign affairs. I think it was foreign affairs, did a big series on Putin's brain about Alexander Dugin, who's sort of this, they call him Putin's Rasputin. And he's kind of this holy guy, but he views Eurasia as to be the great world power. That's what they need. They need to restore Mother Russia. And
he wants the old USSR, doesn't he?
And I've just read a quote of his, like, help the Islamists take out Israel. And that's kind of prophetic too. So, so anyway, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but that situation with the attack that happened last week is pretty volatile. It went from hyper volatile to super hyper volatile, in my opinion. I just don't know exactly how it's going to play out. But I don't trust Putin.
Exactly. And you know what's crazy? You have people like you said, Tucker Carlson, and you have others like Alex Jones that is giving Putin props.
Yep.
And Alex Jones is also anti-Israel too.
I'm not surprised that you say that. I'm pleased that you said that because I think it's truthful. It's a big problem. So, look, I'm pro-Israel. I think that we have issues that we need to deal with vis-a-vis Israel. I think we should be supporting Israel. It always cracks me up. I gotten involved in this sort of online argument one time with somebody who says, "Oh, well, you just support everything that Israel does," and I'm like, that's complete falsehood. I think Israel should have attacked Iran a long time ago. So I don't agree with everything they do. I think they should be harder on Iran, but that's another thing. And then the other thing, Vinny, and I keep coming back to this, I talk about all the time, but I'm not sure how it plays into Bible prophecy. But I'm watching population demographic collapse all across the world. And I think that makes countries more dangerous, like Iran, which in its own newspapers 5 years ago was saying, we have had the fastest decline in female fertility rates of any country over the last decade in human history. That was from the Iranians' own publications.
Wow.
Tokyo or Japan last year, their population in Japan declined by 2 million. What happened? Did they have like a pandemic? No, their demographics are collapsing. China may have lost a couple of 100 million, 200 million people over the last few years.
Yes.
Did they have a war to lose those people? No, they're getting its judgment because they did that one child policy. But it's like, I'm glad I'll say it again. I'm glad I'm an old person, because I don't know what's going to happen. And I see somebody in comments said, except for the Jews, the one country with increasing demographics that looks pretty good is Israel. And by the way, when we went there in 2017, I knew about this, but I wasn't mentally prepared for it. So we took a thing in from the airport. It's called a Nesher bus. I don't know what Nesher means. I think it means no leg room. Because I had to sit sideways in my seat because I couldn't get my knees behind the seat in front of me. And I'm a pretty big guy anyway. You sat next to me. But we came in, so everybody gets on the bus. It's like 15 people, pile all your luggage in the back. And then they stop all these different places on the way in. So the first couple of stops we made were in an Orthodox neighborhood in Jerusalem. Then in a 1 kilometer stretch, so that's a little over half a mile, on this street, I know I saw over 100 baby buggies. in a half a mile.
Wow.
And we went out that night. We were with Joel Kramer, the archaeologist, and we went out on Jaffa Street in Jerusalem. And every Jewish couple had a baby. Every one of them. And so the number of kids running around, particularly in these Orthodox neighborhoods, it's shocking. And so that's the difference between Israel and a lot of the other countries. But we're in this massive demographic decline, and populations are aging. I was looking at one the other day from, I don't remember. It might have been France. I don't think it was France. It might have been Italy. The number of old people, they're like, you get out in like 3 years, there's like this little tiny sliver of people on a population distribution at the bottom, and then there's this big bubble at the top. This has never happened in human history, and it's happening now as we have all these other things going on. So I'm not sure how it plays into Bible prophecy, except that I think it makes Xi, it makes Putin, it makes the Ayatollahs like, if we're going to cement our legacy, we need to act now and do something.
Mm-hmm.
But time will tell as to how that plays out.
Yeah. But you know who still has a huge population is India.
Well, but between India has also used sex selection in their births. And so if you look at the numbers and unpack them, and I'm not saying this is prophetically significant, in between India and China, one child policy, and they both favored male births. Between the two of them, they have somewhere between 150 and 200 million males that have no prospect for a human or for a female wife.
Wow.
How does that happen? By the way, I just saw somebody in the chat. Pookie posted a video from Joel Kramer, The Problem of Joshua's Ai, but the city of Ai in there in, I don't know if it's in Judea or Samaria. It's just to the east of Ramallah, which is kind of like where the dividing line was between the northern and southern kingdoms. Mm-hmm. And I've been to Ai with Joel Kramer, and I am telling you, this is the problem. Very few people in Christian tour groups have ever been to Ai. It's near Bethel. I've been there. I've walked that tell with Joel Kramer. And I am telling you, that is the biblical site of Ai. There is no doubt in my mind. And the problem is, it's in the areas where even Jews are not allowed to go. Wow. Factor that in. In Israel, I have been to places that Jews have never been. There's something wrong with that. And I pray that we can change that soon. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, we do need to pray for that because that's insane.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. There's about a zillion things we could talk about. So there is a ton. I just think this is an incredibly significant time prophetically to be alive. We see. And so my prayer, my hope is what I see coming down the road eventually, and whether I'm here or not, there's coming, it's Romans 11, okay? Mm-hmm. The natural branches are going to be grafted back in. Mm-hmm. And so how do we facilitate that? How do we prepare the way for that? And all that stuff, I think we need to be very sensitive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
John, my friend, I love sitting here having conversations with you because it gets real interesting, especially when we talk about.
We're not scripted, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's the best part. it's just a regular conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's a conversation about what's really happening in different parts of the world. And that's a very interesting take that you have on the whole thing with Russia and the Ukraine. Something to think about. I just think either way it goes, it's just terrible for human life that's being taken on both sides.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
So
I would, what Pookie said, I would say go to Expedition Bible on YouTube. You will get a massive education on biblical archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Joel personally. I've been on a tour with him. Get his book, Where God Came Down. Hopefully there's another part coming out soon. Joel, if you're listening, get busy on that. But it is this is what you see on a tour to Israel, if you do it the right way. And it's very faith reaffirming because you get to walk the places where it actually happened. I say, I'm a PowerPoint guy. So I say being in Israel is like the ultimate PowerPoint because you do the PowerPoint. It happened there, it happened there, it happened there. And it's a real blessing to be able to go. So hopefully we'll be able to go in the fall. If you want to join us, that'd be great.
Man, that'd be great to go to the Holy Land where it all began.
And where it's all going to end.
Yep.
Well, it's not going to end. It's going to be whatever people call the end will be the beginning of a glorious time.
Yeah. I like to say, one of my friends said, we're not working towards the end as believers. We're working towards the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, this life is, I will tell you this. So having just celebrated a 50th wedding anniversary, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me, how did you do that? And I said, I was born, I got married at 21, and I lived to 71. And it was like that quick. It was like that quick.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
That's an ultimate blessing right there. There you go. So, folks, take a lesson from John. Listen to the wife. And
yes,
you'll get
dear.
50 years.
I love you, and yes, dear, are the best things you can say.
Hey, that's what I say. So no wonder why I'm like 10 years in.
Only 40 years to go there, Ben.
Yeah. Oh, man. John,
Anyway,
thank you
thanks,
so much
Ben.
for the time. I appreciate the time you gave to us today.
No problem. Glad to do it.
And would you mind praying us out, my brother?
Sure. Let's pray. Lord, give us the attitude that you wanted to see from your disciples, that they should consider themselves blessed to live at a very prophetic time. Pray that we will recognize that we're blessed to live at that time. Give us wisdom and understanding. Guide us with your Holy Spirit. Keep us in the Word. And always keeping us to remember that we're supposed to act towards one another in love. But bless us, give us opportunities to share the gospel, and bless us as we go through these times together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen and amen. God bless you guys. Love you guys. And don't forget, tomorrow, the Bubba Report. Yes, Tuesday is back, and it feels good to be home. And I enjoyed my time in Phoenix this weekend. And thank you to Pastor David Bowen and his entire church family over at Standing Stones Community Church in Phoenix, Arizona. Got a chance to see Tim Gaines and everyone else. Man, you guys are wonderful people. And now I am so glad to be in the fold of your family at the church. We're all one big family under Christ. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you, great moderators.